Okay, welcome everybody to September 1st architecture meeting for Ortelius. Last time we met, we went through and broke out the kind of like the tasks of the different pieces of what's happening in our flow here. And I got a Discord message from Joseph on some pieces that he found with around the Keptn job executor. And he had some notes, but I tried to open the notes and the link's broken for some reason, may have expired. But let's go ahead and take a look at some of the pieces of Keptn. So if anybody is like a Keptn guru, please jump in here. So from my understanding is we would be able to use a job executor service. So inside of Keptn, there's going to be, they call them services. It's kind of like their version of plugins. And it allows us to run certain things. In this case, it is out there currently, like Keptn's out there listening for the cloud events to come through. And when a cloud event does come through, it will trigger, I believe, the job executor service to go ahead and do the actual work as part of that process. And it looks like it's just some extra pieces that get installed into the control plane. Let's look at the shipyard file. So the shipyard's pretty simple. We just have our stages and what our task is going to be. For example, let's see what else we got. The config. Just going to run the task under Alpine and do an echo. So this task here is where we would go ahead and do like a Docker build. Let's see what some of the steps that we have. Doing a Docker build, a Docker push, some Ortelius stuff where we're going to run our CLI and then get information back where we'll eventually get into the quality gate. Now, I believe the quality gate is totally separate than the job executor. So that's a different like feature set of Keptn around that process. Any questions so far? Now, the one thing, Sasha, you were going to look at with Utkarsh was the how Keptn and GitHub interface together. Did you have a chance to take a look at that?
I think I definitely know Utkarsh has been doing some stuff in there. And he started putting some stuff together. He gave me something to look, just to check out, just to get familiar with.
All right.
But
see if you can dig that up.
Yeah, I'll see if I can try and find it. But in the meantime, I don't want you guys to like just sit there whilst I'm.
Yep. While you're poking around,
yeah.
No worries.
Cool.
So let's look. Oh, if we go back to the our diagram. Minimize that. Some of the things with like the notification piece with the, let's see, Argo at this level, Argo deployment finished. That is part of the Argo listener. And let me see, I think I have Brad's cloud event.
So everything in Keptn is a service that listens for what? Listens for
cloud events,
requests, cloud events from these particular different pieces, right? If I'm thinking of the diagram, so Argo would talk to that particular service designed for Argo. Is that right?
Right. So there is so So on the Argo side, it has this concept of a notifier.
Okay.
So on the Argo CD side, you could put a hook in. So when Argo goes through its different states of doing the deployment, and it finally gets the cluster synced to the Git repo, once all that's been completed and it does all of its blue, green, and canary stuff and all those pieces, it will you could hook in a notifier to publish an event. And this is one of the things that Brad was able to figure out, was being able to take that information and send it over to Keptn. So this is
Okay.
giving us that information as a cloud, basically a cloud event going back over from Argo over to Keptn.
That's all JSON that he had to do.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
cloud
talks
events. Cloud events are all JSON. So
okay.
if
So
you
there's
look
no
at,
YAML or anything like that.
yeah, I think it's cloud events .io, if I remember correctly. So this is put together mainly by I believe is Google, but it basically is a specification on how we should be able to move things around pretty easily. And I believe it is mostly a JSON format. Let's see if they have an example here in the spec. Attributes. And a lot of times, yeah, the cloud event is serialized into JSON. Sometimes they will be, I think you can implement this with protocol buffs as well.
Protocol boss.
Yeah, protocol buff is like a
Buff.
binary data
Right.
stream.
Okay.
If I recall, I've never really played with them,
Yeah, I don't know it at all.
but this is the cloud event, and you'll see here where you have kind of like you have your well-known fields that you kind of lay out, and then in order to allow people to kind of extend the event, they give you, like, you'll see like a data field or something like that you get to throw any additional information into that payload.
Okay.
That's one implementation. The other one is you just add additional fields into beyond basically the required ones as part of your event. So it's more of like a well-known event. So in this case, you'll see this a lot as well, where they have a type to describe what is in the data. So like in our case, our type may be like a component, and then the data would be the component definition at that level. So that would be an example of how you can basically end up using the cloud event as kind of like a header to pass things around, and then you have your payload.
Interesting.
So that's what wrong button. So that's what Brad is kind of doing here. Is this bottom part is the cloud event.
Almost
and
sounds like a build web server listening for an AP with APIs, right? And that's basically what it is, right?
Yep.
Yeah,
exactly.
okay.
So you have some well-known pieces, and then you have your data payload. I'd have to bring it into my editor so I can highlight the payload, but that gives us that the way to be able to really move this data around. Now, I was talking to Fidelity Financial the other day, and they do a lot of work with cloud events, and they actually persist every single event that happens in the world for their CI/CD pipeline pieces. So what they end up doing is they end up storing every single event into a database, and that allows them to do metrics data later on down the road. So for example, you want to know how long it took for an issue to be picked up in GitHub, worked on, and then a PR created, and then how long it took for the PR to be reviewed and merged. All those are different events that can end up being stored in there in the database, and then you can do the correlation queries to build up the metrics around that. So when we do our event data, we'll be able to do that similar thing from our side, knowing when we look at our picture, you know, when somebody committed, how long did it take for it to get all the way rolled out and all the quality gates satisfied, you know, or if the quality gate failed or whatnot, we'll be able to look at that information, because we'll be able to, if we wanted to, we could persist all that data into our database as well.
Sure.
Any luck on finding that, Sasha?
Still looking, sorry.
No worries. So I think it was, if I remember correctly, I think it was a Git. No, I think it's this. If I remember correctly, I thought it was an action that you had to run. Pre-release. For some reason, let's see if it's in this folder. Post change log. Go utils. From what I remember, the integration was based on a GitHub action. So what would happen is, because Keptn is event driven, you would grab the GitHub action would grab the data, format it into the JSON string, and then post it over to Keptn for it to go off and take off. Basically, the integration was doing a formatting and posting a cloud event over to Keptn.
Ah, okay. Here's Utkarsh now. Maybe he knows.
Ah,
he just joined. He had a meeting, but he was able to join now.
Perfect timing, Utkarsh. We're just going over the GitHub integration. And from what I remember, that happens through a GitHub action. Is that correct?
Yes. I have something to demo as well. You have some time.
Yeah, go ahead. If you're ready.
Okay.
Let me stop sharing.
Oh, that'd be cool to see.
While he's doing that, Steve, is the Ortelius site down right now?
Yes. We are moving stuff over from one Azure account to another. And the Linux Foundation didn't get the DNS records correct for the move, and we're working with the Linux Foundation IT to get it sorted out.
Got it.
Yeah, it's kind of a mess, because they did part of it, but not all of it. So if you go to like docs.ortelius.io, that will work. And I think www.ortelius.io will work, but not ortelius.io. It's this weird limbo that we got into somehow, that we're trying to figure out.
DNS is a wonderful thing.
Okay. Okay, so this is the sample repo that I'm using for this demo. Thanks to Erwin. I'm using Erwin's project for this Keptn demo. Keptn Ortelius demo. Let me show you the GitHub action script that I have written. It's pretty much simple. We have a couple of environment variables configured as a secret for the repository. What we are doing here is logging into the Docker Hub, then building the Docker image for the application, and then fetching the Docker digest, and then creating the payload for Keptn, and then again calling the Keptn API and using this payload. So as part of this, when this action is finished, what we would see here, the sequence will get triggered, which is a delivery sequence basically. And as part of shipyard ML, I've just kept it very simple. So we have two environments, that is dev and production. Once the dev deployment is finished and validated, then only the production it kicks off and deploys the changes. So let me quickly show you the application, and then maybe we can make some changes, do a commit, and see how long it takes to.
And how is it in this example? How is the deployment happening?
Deployment is okay. Okay, so for that, there are like some prerequisites. That is, you have to create a project, you have to onboard shipyard YAML file, right?
Right.
And the second prerequisite is you also have to onboard your services. So since this activity was like one-time activity, I have not configured that in bash file, the GitHub action file, but we can also include that if that is the case. Yeah, but what I was thinking, what other processes are there that like needs to be done one time, we should like isolate them and try to do it somewhere else rather than in a GitHub action, because GitHub action will get triggered every time you have any commit, right?
Right. Yeah, that makes sense to split out setup from everyday use.
Yeah. Yeah, based on the inputs and feedback, whatever best suited, we can work on that. Okay, so this is the application. What we'll do, we'll go inside the header file. It should be here. There's so this one is the other one. Yeah. Okay, so this is basically this component, the middle component. So here that is written, find the best place. We'll just make some changes here. Once again, let me bring the charger. So what I say, find the green place. Okay, once again, I haven't saved this right. So,
There it goes. So while that's running, can you show us the shipyard file?
yeah. Okay, so the fish has gone. We would be able to see the repo. Yeah. Let me show that the action is done. So the action is done. So it will take 1 minute 47 seconds, sometime 1 minute or so.
Right.
Yes, and in the meantime, I can show you the shipyard file that I use. Yeah, so this is the shipyard file. And I have been trying with like different shipyard file with the complex ones, and that needs approval, manual approval, and automated approvals as well.
Right.
So yeah, like whatever it's used with, that works totally well with it.
Now this
But
one
is
doesn't. This one doesn't have a quality gate in it, does it?
no, no. Let me show you the another one that has quality gate as well. Yeah. So here we are performing some tests on in the QA, and based on the test that is performed, there will be more sequence trigger
Got it.
that is done in the project.
So it's
And
pretty
here also
easy.
we define the-
Oh, so is that on line 36 a manual approval then?
correct. So if this is successful, then this will automatically go into production. But if not, then you can you have like one API wherein you can pass an event which is like approving the particular sequence. That is basically manual approval for the any sequence.
Nice.
So the shipyard is where you're defining your different stages, right?
Yes.
So dev, QA, product. Okay, yeah, very nice. Ah, you're making socks. Sock shop. Cool.
Yeah.
Shipyard sock shop. Cool. Oh, that's very cool.
Well, let's look at the
So that's what you see in
application.
the UI, right? When you are on the UI now, that code there, you see
In
it
Keptn
graphic.
UI.
Yeah, and Keptn. Yeah.
Yes.
So
Ah,
let's,
very nice.
so if you can show us what you, the run that you just did.
Yes. Yes. So let me just refresh this.
And your Keptn is managing this this application, right?
Yes.
Cool.
Here we go.
Nice.
Find the green flag.
Very nice. Is it a demo site? Is it a demo site?
Yeah. This is the answer.
Very cool.
Also, a few more details. So this is what we wanted to do. So we have defined three stages, that is test, production, and QA, that you can see here. This is my project name. You can define like a number of projects aside. I have defined 2 projects. One is for other applications, you can use for other. In the same project, you can also define multiple services. So here I was trying to run multiple services, but like for some reason I was like they were running, but they were not able to some Kubernetes confusion something. They were not coming up. So that I'm working on, like how I can and bring up the microservice using Keptn.
Got it.
And let's suppose after production you want to trigger some sequence. That is totally doable. So right now, like I spoke to Brad today, and what we are trying to do now is we are trying to integrate with Ortelius APIs now. So let's suppose the deployment, if dev deployment is green, then what I'm trying to do is, like integrating any APIs that is, as part of Ortelius API, and then um, look at the response that is being generated in PostgreSQL or Ortelius.
Right.
If one API works, we can integrate multiple.
Yeah, there's one of the things with the Ortelius APIs is kind of like you have to do a login call first, and then you get basically it's a cookie with a JWT token in it. And then from there, you can do you're authenticated, and you can do any other API calls using that token.
Yeah, actually, like we have three ways by which we can, if we want to do it. So we have one way of doing so is using a bash file, which can be integrated in Keptn using a job executor that is being out of the box provided by Keptn, or we can go with integrating the webhooks. So in webhooks, they integrate secrets as well. So we can give a secret like this is my authentication token.
Right. Now, is the webhook a cloud event based webhook?
Yes, yes. So let me show you what all integrations. So whatever integration that you see here, right? They all are like cloud based. So I'm using Helm chart integration. So these are the events that are listened by Helm chart. So that is why when I say deployment.triggers, or that is why when I say test.triggers, so this JMeter service will start triggering the resources that I have added.
Got it.
So everything goes in event here.
So would we have our io.ortelius.event, kind of, we would define our own events for Ortelius? Is that how it happens?
Do we really want to do that? Because if that is the case, we would end up writing a separate integration.
Oh, okay.
But whatever cases we are into, I don't think that is needed. We can do it without writing integration.
Okay. All right. Just double checking to see how deep we needed to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know Joseph was looking at the job executor service, and he sent me a link, but I couldn't open it. But that's what he was diving into. And it sounds like that's going to be an easy way to do our first integration. Now, one of the things, so there is a Python library that it's in the Ortelius, I think it's in the Ortelius /comp update repo. But it's that Python library does a lot of the wrapping, and because there's multiple calls that are needed sometimes to, like, for example, you want to create a new component, it'll go check to see if the component already exists. And if it does, it'll update it. If it doesn't exist, then it'll go create it. So that logic is in that Python library. And that may be the easier way to, and it does all the RESTful API endpoint calls. But there's just some extra logic around the RESTful APIs that save you a headache from Bash trying to do it with curl.
Okay, so that executor is for which step? Can you just relate to the the architecture diagram that you created?
Right.
I'm not able to figure out like that is for which sequence.
So the job executor service can call Python, right?
Okay.
I think, or if it can call Bash, I'm sure it can call Python. So that would be where we want to do the integration. Probably is my guess.
Okay.
Instead of diving in and like you said, getting doing our own event triggers and stuff like that, like the JMeter service. So let me share my screen real quick.
What is JMeter? Is that like a testing tool? Or
Yeah,
Yes,
it's a
yes.
Java test tool.
okay, so JMeter, the testing tool for API responsiveness, right? Is it that?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I can't remember if it stubs out the call or if it actually does a call to an endpoint. I can't remember.
Okay. Is that something you've got to add it yourself? It doesn't come part of the Keptn, like if you deploy Keptn.
There are
something
like there are two files that we can use. So we have one basic checks file, and the other one is like load. So in load, what they do, there is a static JavaScript written, and what they will do, you tell them this is my endpoint that is going to be deployed, and then they
Okay.
will push some load and test that. So,
Okay. Cool. Thanks.
So based on what we talked about today, you have this part figured out with the GitHub action and basically throwing a message over to Keptn. Now, right now you have the GitHub action doing the Docker build. Will it be possible to have Keptn do the Docker build itself through a job executor?
we can do that, but what Brad was thinking is to keep CI and CD separate as part of like some standard of GitOps practices.
Okay,
So he was like strongly suggesting to keep a CI first and then do the CD stuff.
got it. Okay. So our diagram here may need to change a little bit based on that. So right now we have Keptn dealing with the CI piece, and what we'll probably want to do is change that up a little bit. So Keptn's dealing with the CD portion of it.
Yeah, only the Docker thing is has been changed. Rest is the same.
Okay. All right. I'm talking to Brad later today, so I'll get some more insight into that. Okay, excellent. And we have the quality gate. Looks pretty simple to be able to add those in with the, like you said, with some of the out of the box Keptn quality gate pieces. And I was showing everybody before you joined on Brad's events around coming out of Argo. So that looks good. So I think what we'll just need to do is flush out what we need from the Ortelius side for the events and which RESTful API calls that we need to make. And I think going through the Python library will be the most convenient.
Great work, Utkarsh. Yeah.
Looking good. Cool.
Yeah. A disclaimer, that's all Utkarsh. I'd do anything. I'm just learning from Utkarsh.
You're well, Sasha, you got to say you're the person asking the right questions.
Steve, you're so diplomatic. Wow, that's so skilled.
Yeah, you're just asking the right directions to guide Utkarsh down the right path.
Oh, really? Thanks. No,
all right. So that looks good. I will, like I said, I have a meeting with Brad for the Australian working group today at 4:30 Mountain Time. So it'll probably be really early in the morning for Utkarsh. So I will get that information and I'll try to pull it together and share it with everybody just so we're all on the same page between the two meeting groups here.
Okay.
Looking good, everybody. Excellent job, Utkarsh.
Yeah, it's super fascinating, I must say, to see this in action, right, and how it works, and it's really super interesting. Wow.
Yeah. Tell me, like, whenever you're free, you can connect and let's discuss more on this.
Yeah, and check out definitely check out that cloudevents.io and look at the spec around cloud events, so you can just get a basic feel for what we're going to be how cloud events are kind of, you know, the basic building blocks are put together, so we can expand upon that, because there's other tools out there that use cloud events, which is like Directive, and there's another one I ran across just recently, I can't remember off the top of my head, that are focused on cloud events as well. Oh, it's the CD Events project in the CD Foundation. Their spec that they're putting together is focused on cloud events. And the whole idea around that is just to make interoperability. So if we want to take Keptn out of the picture and put in Directive, we don't have to do a lot of replumbing, basically plug and play.
Yeah.
All right. Well, excellent. Thank you, everybody. And like I said, I will pull together what I get from Brad this afternoon, and I will let everybody know what the next steps are once I get a status of where he's at.
Okay, sounds good.
Sound like a plan?
Sounds good.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Cheers, everyone.
Cheers.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.